Hey everybody, Coach JP Madden here with session 2 of the webinar series Back to the Drawing Board, the new approach to sales in the new reality. In last session, we went over the old way of selling, why we want to say goodbye to that old way, why it didn't work, what elements of the old way we're talking about. Then we moved on to what matters most about your message and what you should be going to market with. And we introduced some of the tools that we'll be using to develop that message. This session, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into those tools and using an analysis approach to come up with not only who we talk to, but what we say. Then we're going to finish off next session, the third of the 3-part series, focusing on building the script. So first session, we understood why we're doing this and the logic behind it. We want to get your buy-in here. This session, we're going to go over the exercise of building the tools or using the tools to build the message. And third, we're going to build that message in exercise 3 with all of you getting involved. So we're clear. This is about opening doors. There's a continuum of processes and mindsets and approaches that need to be taken into sales throughout the full cycle. I want to be clear here. We're talking about that leading edge, cold calls, opening locked doors. In the last session, we went over a number of things about why it's so hard to get in that door in the first place. Cold calls are no fun for most, and they're easily avoided. And we want to make them as effective as possible because they are hard work. Last week, I set some expectations. I wanted to make sure that during this series, we made sure you had a new approach to how you see value. And what I mean by value is the value you bring to the marketplace, and based on a very specific individual you will target, what's important to them. We're going to look at how we choose that target. And there's some tools to analyze our existing customers, and there's a tool to build that prospect to a very, very specific level of detail so that we know we're speaking to somebody and we're going to say something meaningful to that somebody. We'll go over those tools I talked about, but we're also going to talk about the mindset. What mindset is important and needs to be pervasive throughout your organization, not just you as the leader of the sales team or the leader of the organization, but one I encourage everybody in your organization to embrace and adopt so that you are always gathering new information and new understanding so as to have better messages out there, opening new doors. So that means changing how you have client interactions. Not just defaulting to that, hey, how's it going? And I'm reaching out because I care, and I'm not saying that isn't genuine. But our temptation too often is once we get a, yeah, things are great, it's, okay, good. Stop asking, stop digging, don't poke the bear. And I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you are being genuinely curious. One of the key mindsets, I think, to any great leadership is a constant mindset of curiosity, not making assumptions and not believing without validation and without feedback. So when we're talking to our clients, we want to have those deeper conversations about what value we're bringing. What difference are we making in their organization? What does that mean to them? We may have assumptions that what we're bringing is reduced cost or more efficiency. But so what? What does that reduced cost mean? Does that mean that they can spend more money on company Christmas parties or venturing into new markets? Does it mean that they can make sure that they have a better compensation package so that they attract the talent that they want? Those things may not have anything to do with the service you provide, but the service you provide brings in that value because of how you do it. Your understanding of that can be transformational in what message you bring into the marketplace. Because if it's impactful for them, if you were recreating that persona or seeking out that same persona elsewhere in the marketplace, chances are if it's meaningful to who we're talking to now, it's going to be meaningful to who we go to with our cold calling efforts. So we got to be clear, and to become clear, we got to be curious. I'm going to encourage everybody who's looking at this video now to use the chat box and express your expectations of what you would love to get out of a value proposition creation webinar like this. What are those burning questions that you don't feel get answered when you're talking to sales professionals? What is it that seems to always trip you up? What is your biggest challenge? What's the one thing, if you could get solved, you would have an amazing results in your sales efforts? So write them in the chats. Let's encourage some discussion and share your best practice. Maybe there's something that I haven't considered that could make this all the better. Please, I welcome your input and your ideas, and let's get better together. So I said last session that the old way of selling didn't work. And there's a few ways that it doesn't work, or a few reasons that drive why it doesn't work. One of them is brain science. We have the reality that when we go to the marketplace with a message and we're cold calling, these are people who don't know us, don't owe us anything. We haven't built that know me, like me, trust me continuum that makes somebody a customer. We're not even at the front yet. They don't even know us. Maybe they have heard of us, but they don't like us, and so they don't trust us. What's getting in the way of that? One of those things is brain science. Our brains are bombarded with information on a daily, hourly, second-by-second basis. So our brains, just to save energy, only 2% of our body mass is the brain, yet it uses 20% of our energy. There's got to be some efficiency there, or it's going to not function well. So it tunes out a lot of stuff. And if we are sending a prospect a proposal where they've got to do the thinking, they've got to read between the lines because we've got some clever slogan or turn of phrase or something we think is oh so clever, chances are it's so clever that the client or the prospect isn't giving it the time of day because they just don't have the energy. Their brains are hardwired to protect them from unnecessary energy. They're probably not even going to try. Then on top of that, we've got not only other marketing messages, but we've got this coronavirus that's happening right now. And we've got all these stressors in the world environment that are getting in the way of somebody having the clarity of mind to just focus their cognitive attention to what we're saying. How do we prevent our message just being a sheet in the wind that smacks them in the face and is brushed away? Well, we have to make it meaningful and specific to them. Let's go back to that old way of selling and remind ourselves why they don't work. So what is the old way? One of the first old ways is throwing spaghetti at the wall, I call it. It's that spray and pray, that hit and hope, that effort of let's get a message out there and just hammer it until somebody see who bites. Our time's too precious. Our efforts are too precious to be wasted on that and squander opportunities. The tools we're going to use in a little bit are going to identify who is that perfect client that really will benefit from our services and will benefit from having them on our books. Let's not squander it by just throwing any old message out to them. Another thing the old way of selling does that it doesn't help anybody is what I call the Tarzan or the gorilla chest pounding exercise of shouting, "We are great. Our product is better than the competition," or "we're 50% more effective," or "we use 20% less this, that, or the other." Comparative, but all about me, is not going to get anybody's attention. It's just noise. And maybe we don't take that noisy approach and we go sweet and charming. And maybe we put a coat of lacquer on it that makes it look pretty. If we're still saying that we're swell, that we are worth listening to, we've missed the point. It doesn't answer so what, and it doesn't answer what's in it for me. That's the thing that cuts through the noise. Lastly, the mistake that the old way of selling makes is one that I don't completely argue with. There's an old sales adage, it's a numbers game. And that's true to a degree, but that doesn't mean that the numbers are unlimited. We still have a finite number of targets out there. So don't we owe it to ourselves to be clever about what we do, thoughtful and considered? When we try to appeal to everyone, the reality is we appeal to no one. So let's recognize that that is a reality, and let's get laser focused on our message and not fall into the trap of thinking, if I get too specific, well, I'm closing the door to other opportunities. The reality is that isn't the case, and we're not closing the door to any opportunities. Just being compelling to a very specific demographic, and others will follow. So we need to have that focus, that lasered focus of who are we talking to? So then how do we decide? Who do we talk to? Well, this is where I introduce a toolbox of resources that I encourage you to try to get that focus, to apply some logic to why you're approaching who you're approaching, and then get the tools to get into their mind, step in their shoes for a day, and say something meaningful to them. That first tool is going to focus on those businesses that have an existing client base. This isn't to say that we can't take the same approach and shouldn't take the same approach to businesses that are startups or have a new product range that you're trying to develop a value proposition statement for. We can still do that, but this tool is specific for companies that have a track record of data, of information that they can apply to rationalize why they're choosing who they're choosing. Some of the obvious ones and the easy to track ones are going to be, how much sales are we making from each of these customers, right? You're going to have your list of customers down the side. How much are we making in annual sales from them? But let's not stop there. Just because they're the biggest on our books doesn't mean we want or need or are best served by having more of those ones. Let's add to the mix lifetime sales. Because maybe there's somebody who's been on our books for a heck of a long time. They're devoted and faithful customers, and over the lifetime, we're gonna recoup more than that one big fish that we may land that we have on our books only a short time. Then we got to look at how they're spending their money. Share of wallet. For this one, I use the example of super simple. Let's say we're selling gravel, and our customers are garden centers. If there's a garden center out there that's on our books, and maybe it's this top one, Acme Corporation, and they're our top customer, but they actually have 3 suppliers of gravel, and we're only one of them, then maybe really we'd be looking in at best, maybe we're only getting 1/3 of their share of wallet. Well, what's falling short there? And if they're the type of business that's only going to ever give us 1/3 of their business, Is that the kind of business we want to have? Is that the kind of partner we want to work with? Then the other side of that similar equation is penetration. So maybe we sell more than just gravel. Maybe we have gravel and sand and topsoil. And this Acme Corporation is only taking 2 out of those 3. They're only taking the gravel and the sand, that they're not taking our topsoil. And we're never going to get the devotion from that type of company because of the way they operate. We need to make sure that we're not missing out. And is there something more? Or is maybe a company like Globex, the next one in the list, where they take all 3, maybe not quite as high up on the annual sales, but they take what we offer and they're going to be open to other services that we sell. Now, here's one that may not be measured in your organization. And when I made the expectation that I change how you as an organization approach your clients, this hopefully is the beginnings of that change. Understanding how not just you as either the leader of your sales team, or you as a salesperson for that client, or you as the leader of your whole company interact with those clients, but how your entire organization, from customer service and delivery and anybody you contact in any way or indirect way, let's start building a universal mindset of curiosity and interest in that client, and interest in how we impact that client. So are they referring business to us? Maybe those top 3, Acme Corp, Globex, Initech, they're not sending us any other business. We don't know why, but sure enough, Umbrella and Hooli and whoever else on this list, they're great for referrals. Well, we've got to give that some credence, simply because all this effort in cold calling is a heck of a lot harder than bringing on business that's been referred to us. So we need to score that and make sure that we're giving credit to these other companies that are great referral sources. On that subject of how hard is it to get, or easy is it to get sales from these companies, whether it's directly from them or as a referral, speed of sale. How long from the time we first reached out to that customer to the time we got our first order, how long was that? Are we tracking that? And if it isn't, why not? So hopefully I've changed your mindset in making sure that's a priority to be tracking going forward, so that you understand when the analysis is done later on, we can look at what types of companies are quicker to sale. So if we're in a position, maybe like we are now, maybe not, but if we're in the position now where we have to build up our revenue and ramp it up fast, the last thing we want to do is put our focus on companies that have a longer sales cycle. So be aware of that. The next 3, a lot more intangible, not necessarily tracked or directly tracked to the overall sales equation, and that is 1, cost to serve. How much did we have to spend to get certified in something to bring on this customer? And is that a factor in going forward with other customers in this industry? Are there more certifications we're going to have, or we're going to have to spend money to keep certified in that other companies don't impose upon us? Is there a cost to serve, and just they're a high maintenance client that they demand that we have a dedicated service technician to service our product to them, and that gets in the way of how well that customer or that service person is able to serve our other customers, which kind of goes into opportunity cost as well. What are we giving up by having this one customer on our books? And maybe it's because of industry competition. Because we've got this customer in this one industry, we can't go after any other businesses because this one customer wouldn't appreciate it. And we have to be sensitive, or we're closing the door to other opportunities because of that. That could be a factor. And maybe it's a dollar figure that we can figure out that it's costing us this much in business, or even just a 1 to 10 scale, like cost to serve. It's hard to put a dollar figure on it, but on a scale of 1 to 10, these guys are a 7 in terms of imposition on our administration. Last one I call PITA, P-I-T-A, pain in the ass. And what I mean by that is all those other things that aren't measurable in either dollars or hours, but they're just a nuisance to have on the books. And yeah, we make revenue from them, but I'd be darned if I want to have another client like that for whatever reason. These are sorts of examples of things that I recommend you have on your client analysis tool. But that's not to say this is the only one. What I would suggest is build up a list of things that are meaningful to you that deserve deeper consideration. Next, once you've done this building of the list, is the analysis of it, and look at the top, looking at all this scoring of all those factors. Who are the top 3 that stand out? And what are the common traits amongst them? First, we look at the company itself. What are the traits of that company that are constant amongst the top 3? Maybe all 3 are totally different sizes. One's a really small company, another one's middle, and one's giant, but they scored in your top 3 others. What about them that's similar? But maybe it's the number of employees, or it's the industry that they serve, it's how long they've been in business, how long the industry has been around. Are they a new cutting edge? Top 3 tend to be in a cutting edge industry versus all the other ones are old established industries. Well, that should tell you something about where you want to put your attention and where you go to for new business. Once we're clear on that identification of your ideal company, now we want to build an avatar, and that's looking at the individual. So who's the buyer? Who's the decision maker within the top 3 companies with those common traits? What's common about that individual? Is it the position and the title? Is it the age of the individual? Is it their gender? Is it the demographic they come from? Is it their education? We want to get to the point where we really have good clarity on what that individual, the common traits are of that individual. Because now with that, we're going to build an avatar. We're going to build a single character that we, to the exclusion of all other possibilities, build a story around what's meaningful to that person. So to do that, we build an avatar where we get creative. And I'm going to talk to those people in the audience that are like me, that are highly analytical. We like fact-based decisions. We want to remove speculation as much as possible. I got very, very uncomfortable with this process when I first was introduced to it. But having gone through it a number of times myself and now with clients, I can speak to the fact that it is effective. And I encourage you, if you aren't creative and you can't think creatively very easily, make sure you have creative people on your team as you do this exercise. And this is not an exercise to be done by one person in isolation, ideally. As much as you can, I encourage you to build a team for brainstorming where you're going to build an avatar. And you're going to get as specific as you possibly can, even to the point of say what hair color this person has, what publications they read, what YouTube channels they subscribe to, how long they've been going to school, what they have a degree in, as much detail as possible. Commit to that, write it down, and then work with that avatar on the next tool, which is the empathy map. The empathy map is all about building up an understanding of the empathy map is all about building a clear understanding of the day in the life of your avatar. The empathy map will allow you to you document what you believe we work around the clock on the upper part, what on a daily basis they are thinking and feeling. What are they hearing? What are they seeing? What are they saying and doing? And from this, we're going to get an understanding of not only what pains, bottom left, what they're trying to avoid, but gains, what are they trying to achieve? And with those 4 quadrants also, we're going to build up a story of understanding what are their job functions. All of these things are going to give us a clarity on what elements we can put into our message. As we've developed our product service, we've built a story around what's valuable. But if we build up that long laundry list of all the great things we can do for our clients, if we list that and not understand whether it actually is of service to them based on what they think and feel, what they hear, what they see, what they say and they do, if we aren't matching it to that, we're making noise and we're going to get tuned out. So this brainstorming exercise of working with the empathy map will probably look like a big sheet with a whole lot of post-it notes on the wall of everybody adding their thoughts and challenging each other with would they really? And it could be what they hear is complaints from customers because their delivery times are too slow, or they see environmental reports and they see a growing list of regulations from the government. Maybe they think and feel that they aren't bringing enough value to the organization as they're limited by this, that, or the other. There's going to be all sorts of things that they go through on a daily basis that will create fears, frustrations, and obstacles that they're trying to avoid, and wants and needs, measures of success, and obstacles they're trying to gain, that they're trying to overcome. Once we've populated this, we go to the last piece, which is the value proposition canvas. And unlike most things where we're reading left to right, we're going to start on the right here. We're going to start with this side of the sheet, and we're going to match what those gains we identified from the empathy map, and we're going to populate them up here. And we're going to identify the pains that we pulled up from the empathy map, and we're going to put them here, and we're going to understand the jobs that maybe we have an impact on, an influence over, and put them here. And only then will we start looking at what we do and our list of features, advantages, and benefits of our product or service and start matching them up here. We may have a list of 30 things that are great about what we do, but only 8 of them speak to anything on here. We forget the other 22 and we focus on those 8. And once we've done all that, once we've built up that inventory of understanding, only then can we move on, and as we will in section 3, of crafting a message and getting a message together that gets a response. So I hope that's made some sense and has highlighted not only why that old way of selling doesn't work, what challenges we're up against with the current marketplace and the reality of what our targets are dealing with when it comes to receiving messages and why we need to be more compelling. But the tools now are in place that we can get to work. We can roll up our sleeves and start doing the hard work of building a valuable message that isn't that spaghetti we're throwing against the wall. We're now building a laser that we're going to target our prospects with and have real impact and have a real chance of getting that first conversation. Remember, that cutting edge of sales, that cold calling, that outreach, we need to be clear on our objectives with that. What are we trying to do with that cold call? We are trying to get permission to have a deeper conversation. That's it. In that deeper conversation, we're going to start doing discovery. We're going to learn specifically about the dollars and cents and the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of that specific specific customer. But until we have that opportunity, we need to put together a compelling statement that gets us permission to have that conversation. And I believe that's the purpose of the cold call, the permission to have a deeper conversation. So with that objective, I empower you with those tools now. Go have some work at it. And then in session 3, we're going to take the work that you've done and we're going to start building some scripts for you to go to the marketplace with. Until then, have a great day, everybody.